Okay, Mr. Chair, I'm just checking the attendees to see if we have anyone, board members there to move over. Commissioner Whitfield, I've moved you to the executive board panel. So you should be able to speak. And if there is someone in the attendee list that I have inadvertently missed, please let me know by raising your hand if possible. I know you're not able to chat, but if you're a board member and you're in the attendees list and I've just missed you, please let me know. Okay, I don't see anyone raising their hand, and I do apologize if you're there and I'm just not seeing you. Mr. Chair, we do have enough members for the meeting, and let me know when you'd like to do a quorum roll call.
Please do.
Okay. Andrea Noel.
Here.
Rodney Simpson.
Present.
Lawrence Bailey.
Here.
John Agan. John Bilderback.
Here.
Jack McAfee.
Here.
Bob Colby.
Here.
Jeremy Bryson.
Here.
Ted Rogers.
Here.
Chris Dorsey.
Here.
Darian Collins.
Here.
Dan Wright.
Here.
Boyd Veal.
Here.
Bert Johnson.
Here.
Shannon Whitfield.
Here.
And I'm going to look to make sure I haven't missed anyone. Is there a board member on the call that I missed during that? We had several people join at the end. Mr. Chair, we do have a quorum.
Very good. We can proceed with the agenda. We obviously are continuing to meet electronically due to with permission from the governor's executive orders. And I believe the first item on our agenda today is the federal partner update. Karen, if you'll lead out on that, I'd appreciate it.
Sure, Mr. Chair, we've moved this up on the agenda so we're able to hear from Pamela Cordenbrock. And Pam, you should be able to go ahead and give your update. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, Karen, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to address y'all today. A couple of quick items I just wanted to cover is that FHWA and FTA are going to be working jointly and have kicked off the Chattanooga Transportation Management Area Federal Certification Review. And we will be doing that formally with y'all. We've kicked it off internally. We'll be doing it with the project partners starting in the beginning of 2021. We're going to wait and see whether we're going to continue to work virtually or have the opportunity to meet together. So depending on how that shakes out, we may be doing some project visits or we may be asking you to visit with us virtually. This is a federally required review of the transportation process, and it occurs every 4 years. And it's Chattanooga's rotational time to do this. The certification report will be issued on or before July of 2021. So we're going to be visiting with all the partners, the TPO, TDOT, the Georgia DOT, and the members of the public that would like to provide feedback to us as we do this assessment. At the last meeting, we shared that the FAST Act had been extended for an entire year, and that the FAST Act is separate from the financial appropriations. So Congress had taken us through December 11th, which was last Friday. And if you have been watching the news, Congress has provided a continuing resolution for our programs through Friday, December 18th of this week. So we're anticipating another congressional action so that we can continue, but we are funded through the end of this week. Right? And we also appreciate the ability to meet with y'all virtually as we get towards the end of the year, and hopefully we'll be able to get back together again sometime soon. And with that, I'll just wish everybody a very happy and safe holiday season. And I'll take any questions if you have.
Okay, looks like we have no other questions. Karen, should we proceed to item number 2?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
And I will, I inadvertently missed this at the beginning. I will state, and this is similar to the last board meeting, that we advertised this meeting with a request that people could submit written comments or sign up to speak during the meeting. And that's just to help us with meeting management a little bit. We did not have anyone send any written comments or ask to speak in advance. So although this is a public meeting and there are opportunities for that to happen, including our last agenda item, the public comment period, Mr. Chair, just want to let you know we don't have anyone or have any written comments for that. So just a heads up on that. And the chat just lets people know where the agenda is. And if there are any questions during the meeting, to email staff at tpo@chattanooga.gov, and we will get back with you after the meeting. So thank you.
Excellent.
Point of order.
Yes.
Do we need to approve the minutes from last meeting? I don't believe we
Beat me
did
to
that yet.
I think I interrupted the chair on the minutes, so I apologize for that.
That's okay. It's a good point of order. We wanted to make sure we got that federal partner update. I think she had another commitment. So we wanted to not disenfranchise her, certainly on her time commitment. So let's do, thank you, Mr. Bilderback. Let's go back to item 1 and folks review the minutes from October of 2020, and then we'll entertain a motion for approval from those when they're ready.
Motion to approve.
There is a motion by whom?
Dan.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Wright. I want to remind everybody, I think on the Zoom protocol, they want everybody to say your name and the motion that you go. So there is a motion by Mr. Wright. Is there a second?
Chris Dorsey, second.
Mr. Dorsey, thank you, sir. Any other discussions? Okay, there's a motion and a second for approval of the October 28, 2020 TPO Executive Board meeting minutes. Roll call, please, Karen.
Andrea Noel,
Yes.
Rodney Simpson,
Approve.
Blythe Bailey,
Yes.
John Agan. John had emailed that he's in the call or in the meeting. John Agan. Mr. Chair, I'll reach back out to John at the end. John Bilderback,
Yes.
Jack McAfee,
Yes.
Bob Colby,
Yes.
Jeremy Bryson,
Yes.
Ted Rogers,
Yes.
Chris Dorsey,
Yes.
Darian Collins,
Yes.
Dan Wright,
Yes.
Boyd Veal,
Yes.
Bart Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Whitfield.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, the motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much. Let's move quickly on to item number 2. The approved by resolution support of the CARTA safety targets.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As part of the federal requirements for transportation performance management and target setting, CARTA is required to prepare a public transportation agency safety plan. The plan must include targets for the number and rate of reportable transit-related fatalities, injuries, and safety events, as well as the mean distance between major mechanical failures by mode. A link to CARTA's full safety plan is available in the report for this agenda item, and CARTA's safety targets have been excerpted from the plan and included in the packet for your review. Through all of their targets, CARTA aims to achieve better safety performance in 2021 compared to their 2019 safety performance or equivalent performance for modes for which there were 0 fatalities or major mechanical failures. The TPO is required to adopt transit safety targets specific to our metropolitan planning area 180 days after CARTA establishes their targets through the safety plan. TPO staff and the TCC recommend supporting CARTA's targets. The targets must inform our investment priorities for upcoming transit projects, and we must incorporate the targets and safety plan into our regional transportation plan and transportation improvement program. CARTA must review and update their safety plan and targets annually, but the TPO isn't required to update our targets annually. We can instead choose to revisit our targets when we update the system performance report for our regional transportation plan. As a point of clarification, the transit safety targets are separate and distinct from the highway safety improvement program safety targets related to all fatalities and serious injuries on public roadways, which I'll cover under the next item on our agenda. The action for the board's consideration today for this item is to approve by resolution support of CARTA safety targets. And I'm happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Any questions? Okay, we'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll move to approve. This is White Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Is there a second?
Boyd Veal, I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Veal. Roll call, please, Karen.
Andrew Noel,
Yes.
Rodney Simpson,
Yes.
Blythe Bailey,
Yes.
John Agan, John Bilderback,
Yes.
Jack McAfee,
Yes.
Bob Colby,
Yes.
Jeremy Bryson,
Yes.
Ted Rogers,
Yes.
Chris Dorsey,
Yes.
Darian Collins,
Yes.
Dan Wright,
Yes.
Boyd Veal,
Yes.
Bart Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Whitfield.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously, Mr. Chair.
Very good. On to the next item of business. Our number 3, approved by resolution support of Tennessee and Georgia annual safety performance targets.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Federal legislation also requires DOTs and MPOs to establish targets related to the safety of all public roadways. These targets include the number and rate of fatalities and serious injuries, as well as the number of non-motorized serious injuries and fatalities. Both TDOT and GDOT's targets for 2021 are available in the packet for you to review. TDOT invited the TPO to serve on a target setting work group, and GDOT coordinated the sharing of targets through the Georgia Association of Metropolitan Planning Organizations. TDOT's target setting justification documentation is included in the packet to provide additional information on the rationale behind how their targets were established. We've also included materials in your packet about several state safety initiatives that may be particularly helpful as we coordinate with the states to improve safety. We've included information about TDOT's pedestrian road safety initiative and 2 GDOT safety initiatives. One is their new metric program, which is a suite of safety applications that make it easy to analyze, visualize, and identify possible solutions to roadway crashes, and is available for use by our TPO members. And the other is a form that local agencies can use to request HSIP funding that GDOT has set aside for the purchase of safety equipment for local agencies to install. FHWA has conducted an assessment of the state's progress towards achieving their first year of targets, which was 2018. And Tennessee was found to have met or made significant progress towards achieving their targets, but Georgia was not. There are more links to more info about the assessment in your packet. The TPO must now choose to either support the state's 2021 targets or set their own. And TPO staff and the TCC recommend supporting the state's targets. It's important to note that regardless of the decision made by the TPO, the local urban area funds that are allocated to the TPO would not be affected in any manner. Only the states could possibly incur penalties that would require a focus of their funds on particular project categories. TPO staff assessed interest in reconvening the ad hoc TPO safety target setting committee to review options available to the TPO for the 2021 target setting cycle. Since the city of Chattanooga was the only jurisdiction that expressed interest, rather than reconvening the committee, the TPO staff provided updates to the city on the progress made by the TDOT Safety Target Working Group. So the action for consideration by the board today is to approve by resolution support of Tennessee and Georgia annual safety performance targets for 2021. And I'm happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Any questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve, Rodney Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Sampson. Is there a second?
Chris Dorsey, second.
Thank you, Mr. Dorsey. Roll call, please, Karen.
Andrew Noel, Andrea Noel,
Yes, sorry, Karen.
Rodney Simpson.
I made the motion, but I'll support it
Okay,
again.
I probably don't need to hit you if you made the motion. I apologize for that. Thank you. Blythe Bailey,
Yes.
John Bilderback,
Yes.
Jack McAfee,
Yes.
Bob Colby,
Yes.
Jeremy Bryson,
Yes.
Ted Rogers,
Yes.
Chris Dorsey had the second, Darian Collins,
Yes.
Dan Wright,
Yes.
Boyd Veal,
Yes.
Bert Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Whitfield.
Yes.
The motion carries, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Next item of business, number 4, approved by resolution in support of Tennessee and Georgia transportation performance management requirements for pavement and bridge condition targets and adjustments.
Okay, I had to unmute myself. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just as with the other performance measures and targets that Courtney mentioned earlier, the same applies to our pavement and bridge condition for the state and our MPO to adopt targets. There is a 2-year interim reporting period, and that also enabled the opportunity to adjust targets. So what I'm presenting today is the summary of that 2-year interim reporting period, along with one adjustment. This applies, the pavement and bridge condition measure and targets applies to the percent of interstate and non-interstate national highway system in good and poor, that is in good, poor condition there. And it does not apply to the other ones. So the action that we are taking is actually to adjust the one measure there. We've reviewed their data for the 2- and 4-year targets. The states and MPOs were given the opportunity, as I mentioned, to readjust. Only the one adjustment is the 4-year target by TDOT, 4% of that non-interstate pavement in poor condition. The original target was set for 4% and has been revised to 5%. TPO staff maintains that we would the support of these targets and this indicated adjustment. Additional details are provided in the TPO's packet, and we are here to take action then by resolution on keep remaining targets staying the same and this one adjustment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll entertain any questions.
Okay, hearing no questions, is there a motion for approval?
Move to approve as recommended, Radney Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion, Dan Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Roll call, please, Karen.
Andrea Noel.
Yes.
Mr. Simpson made the motion. Blythe Bailey,
Yes.
John Bilderback,
Yes.
Jack McAfee,
Yes.
Bob Colby,
Yes.
Jeremy Bryson,
Yes.
Ted Rogers,
Yes.
Chris Dorsey,
Yes.
Darren Collins,
Yes.
Mr. Wright had the second, Boyd Veal,
Yes.
Bert Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Whitfield.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries, Mr. Chair.
Excellent. Next item of business is approved by resolution support of Tennessee and Georgia transportation performance management requirements for systems performance, targets, and adjustments.
Yes, Courtney and Melissa explained that right now the TDOT and TDOT have the opportunity to update the 4 years targets after the 2 years progress review. And since GDOT met all their PM3 targets and decided not to make any revision on the 4 years target. And TDOT, based on the current performance, and they decided to update the freight reliability target from 1.33 to 1.37 and keep the other 2 travel time reliability target the same. So the staff had discussed these changes in the November TCC meeting, and they recommend the executive board to support the state target and the 4-year PM3 targets for the 2018 to 2021 as adjusted and reported in the October 2020. So, you got any question?
Very good. Hearing no questions, is there a motion for approval?
Move to approve as recommended. Radney Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. Is there a second?
Second, Bert Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Roll call, please.
Andrea Noel,
Yes.
Mr. Simpson made the motion. Blythe Bailey,
Yes.
John Bilderback,
Yes.
Jack McAfee,
Yes.
Bob Colby,
Yes.
Jeremy Bryson,
Yes.
Ted Rogers,
Yes.
Chris Dorsey,
Yes.
Darian Collins,
Yes.
Dan Wright,
Yes.
Boyd Veal,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson had the second, Commissioner Whitfield.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion carries, Mr. Chair.
Excellent. Our next item of business is approved by resolution an amendment to the fiscal year 2020-2021 Unified Planning Work Program.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you know, the UPWP, the Unified Planning Work Program, is the work program of the TPO and shows the activities and funding associated with the task that the TPO undertakes during the 2-year period. We do amend the UPWP from time to time when activities or funding amounts change. And in this case, the amendment to our current FY20 to 21 work program is for 2 purposes. One is for CARTA FTA 5303 funding. CARTA has the opportunity to receive additional FTA Section 5303 funding from TDOT to assist with their public transit planning activities that are already documented in the UPWP. So the UPWP would add an additional total amount of state, federal, and local funding in of $75,000, and CARTA does pay the local match for those funds. The second purpose of this is to address the work that TPO staff are doing in finalizing the schedule for the Regional Transportation Plan due in 2024 and for the travel demand model update and the congestion management process. An amendment will ensure that the work program is updated to reflect those activities and that the funding is programmed to support those activities. Several of the work tasks are already in the work program and have been discussed with you during the development of the UPWP, but we are starting several activities that need to be reflected in the work program. Melissa, next slide, please. The additional tasks associated with the additional funding are in Task 6, which is Transportation System Performance, and Task 7, which is in Regional Long Range Planning. So those tasks, one of them we had already mentioned, we are kicking off the plan in the UPWP. This provides just a little bit more context for the activities in the Regional Transportation Plan, and that's in Task 7. And then Task 6 shows a kickoff to the ITS plan update a little bit earlier than we had originally planned, and some additional work with the CMP. So funding to support these tasks will come from existing PL funds available to the TPO through our TDOT contract after this UPWP amendment is finalized. The TCC was notified of the amendment, but I did mention at that meeting that the amounts shared with them were most likely to change prior to this board meeting as we really kind of finalized our planning activities for the current fiscal year we're in, but this does come with a recommendation to approve.
Excellent. So we have that recommendation. Are any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, Chris Dorsey.
Thank you, Mr. Dorsey. Is there a second?
Second that, Andrea Noel.
Thank you, Andrea. Roll call, please.
Okay. Ms. Noel had the second for that. Rodney Simpson,
Yes.
Blythe Bailey,
Yes.
John Bilderback,
Yes.
Jack McAfee,
Yes.
Bob Colby,
Yes.
Jeremy Bryson,
Yes.
Ted Rogers,
Yes.
Chris Dorsey had the motion, Darian Collins,
Yes.
Dan Wright,
Yes.
Boyd Veal,
Yes.
Bart Johnson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Whitfield.
Yes.
The motion carries, Mr. Chair, and I will note that John Agan, representing Hamilton County, has been in the meeting, but I have been unable to promote him to be able to allow him to speak, but I did want to note that he is in attendance.
Excellent. Our next item is approved by resolution, a revised overall combined amount not to exceed $2.5 million for on-call professional transportation planning services.
Okay. At the August board meeting, this body gave the Chattanooga-Hamilton County Regional Planning Agency as staff to the TPO the ability to enter into contracts for on-call professional transportation planning services in an amount not to exceed $2 million for a 4-year period. And this was reflective of what we had done in the prior 4-year period, I believe starting in 2016. But due to the nature of the work needing consultant support during this planning cycle and to enable the planning activities that staff feel are appropriate, the action before the board today is to raise the contract compensation ceiling to $2.5 million. That would add an additional $500,000 in for this 4-year period. The amount would be the maximum compensation ceiling for contracts and does not obligate the RPA to issue work orders in that amount. It does allow the RPA, however, to respond to needs during this time frame. And the TPO's executive board is the body that enables the RPA to go into contract and to extend funds. On the RPA's other side of the shop, that is Chattanooga City Council gives permission. But just to note, this is the legal entity that allows the RPA to expend funds on behalf of the TPO. So we are requesting a revised overall compensation ceiling for contracts for on-call services, but noting that that does not require us to expend those funds. And funds expended are reflected in the UPWP for those activities, similarly to what we just discussed.
Very good. So recap, we're raising the ceiling, but we're not necessarily raising the guaranteed expenditure, correct?
That's correct.
Very good. Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Move for approval. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Is there a second?
Second. Bert Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Mr. Chair, was Blythe Bailey the person who made the motion?
I believe that's correct,
Okay.
Mr. Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
We can dispense with the formality on that, Karen. Let's just go ahead and call the whole roll. That moves things along quicker and there's no confusion.
Say that again. I'm sorry, sir.
You don't need to worry about who made the first or second on
Okay.
point of order.
You would
there.
like
Just
for
call
me to
the
go
roll.
straight down the roll?
That's easier on you and everybody else. Thanks.
Okay. Andrew Noel,
Yes.
Rodney Simpson,
Yes.
Blythe Bailey,
Yes.
John Bilderback,
Yes.
Jack McAfee,
Yes.
Bob Colby,
Yes.
Jeremy Bryson,
Yes.
Ted Rogers,
Yes.
Chris Dorsey,
Yes.
Darian Collins,
Yes.
Dan Wright,
Yes.
Boyd Veal,
Yes.
Bart Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Whitfield.
Yes.
The motion carries, Mr. Chair.
Excellent. Our next item of business is Tennessee Department of Transportation project list review and prioritization.
Mr. Chair, oh, I was just going to defer to Andrea, Mr. Chair. Go ahead, Andrea.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank the TPO for helping us rank these projects. I know we've been asking you to do this for years, but I wanted to give a big picture overview for those who are new to the process and for the public who may wonder why we do this. So this draft list comes to you from Brian Hurst. He is the Assistant Director of TDOT's Programming and Administration Division. Brian oversees a database of all TDOT projects. He works with the department's executive management team in developing the comprehensive multimodal program, which is better known to you guys probably as the Governor's Highway Program or the 3-year plan. Sometimes we call it that too. In other words, that is the list of project phases that have dedicated funding to move forward during that time period. So every year in November and December, we give the draft list of projects to the MPOs and the RPOs to rank and prioritize the project phases. In January to April, TDOT is developing the highway program, which gets approved by the governor of Tennessee and the legislators of Tennessee. Then in April, TDOT provides the approved highway program to the public. So during the development of the comprehensive multimodal program, the executive management team considers several criteria. They consider the traffic operations, multimodal and functional classification of the roadways, economic development, road safety, regional and MPO rankings, and environmental impacts. And each one of these criteria has a weight, and it's run through the software, which provides a technical ranking based upon all of those factors. So the team looks at the technical rank and also considers distribution of projects by region and by MPOs to ensure that the program is equitable across the state. So that's the comprehensive multimodal program in a very simplified nutshell. So I'll be happy to answer any questions you have about the process, or I can even give you Brian's contact information if you want more details on the process. But the TCC ranked the projects at the November meeting, and you can see on the screen now how the TCC was ranked. And Karen put the 2019 rankings in blue text next to the project, so you can see that they're not that different from how you ranked them last year. Also on page 60 of the agenda packet is a copy of the spreadsheet that we provided. It has more information on the projects, but you'll also notice on that sheet that there's a section for your comments. We really would like to hear from you as to why these projects are important to you and the region. Karen has agreed to compile these comments, your comments, and send them to me by December 31st. So I'm happy to answer any questions on this if you have questions now, or you can put them in the chat box and I can answer them later. But at this point, I'll turn it back over to Karen to talk about your next steps.
Okay, Andrea did kind of notice or bring your attention to what's on the screen. I will note that, as Andrea said, that the rankings are pretty similar to the board rankings from last year. We did have 3 sets of projects switch rankings. 2 of them just kind of flipped places. 1 set flipped 2 places, which might be more confusing than clarifying the matter. The board can choose to accept the TCC ranking, choose to rank the projects themselves, or another action. Mr. Chair, I'll note that if the board chooses to rank the projects, I'll provide a SurveyMonkey link. I'll notify members of the time frame needed to rank the projects, and then how we'll follow up on presenting the scoring. But I won't get into details on that, Mr. Chair, unless that is the way the board would like to head. But otherwise, this is action before you to accept the board ranking. We normally just send this on to the to TDOT along with any additional comments you have, so we don't have a resolution for this item.
Yes, indeed. In studying the list, it is very similar to the project ranking of last year. There may be an item or 2 that's 1 to 3 off, but it still goes that. And this is the recommendation from the Technical Coordinating Committee, which all of us have representatives on. Since there is not a major change, I think we'll first open it up for discussion. My recommendation, because there's not a major change, is that we go ahead and after discussion, potentially entertain a motion to approve this, but I want to have an extra set of discussion to allow folks to comment on that. So the floor is open. Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the recommendation of the Technical Coordinating Committee for the project rankings for 2020 to be the same.
Chris Dorsey, so moved.
Mr. Dorsey moves that. Is there a second?
Mr. Chairman, I was going to ask a question, but I didn't act quickly enough. It looks like it's hard to hear me. I was just going to ask a clarification question, Mr. Chairman, but I will second the motion and accept the TCC's recommendation. My clarification question to Andrea or staff, forgive me if this was noted, how does this ranking get used? Is it simply that if there's not enough funds they go from the top of the list to the bottom until they run out, and then they program the others later, or is there more to it than that?
Yeah, Blythe, if I understand your question correctly. So yeah, so once the whole list gets a technical ranking, say that there's like 400 projects that are technically ranked, but then when funding comes in and it really only can fund about 300 of those projects, then it funds the top 300 projects, and the next ones will just sit waiting for funding for the next year. Did that answer your question?
It did, and I'll follow, if it's okay, Mr. Chairman, with a more specific question. I'm curious why Bonnie Oaks Drive from State Route 17 to Industry Drive is considered farther down the list. It would seem like those four, and I guess maybe it's a function of the vote just being different from different people, but it seems like those would be bunched together. And I wonder if there actually is a lower priority. Maybe this isn't a question for you, Andrea, but I'm curious about the Bonnie Oaks Drive segment that's farther at the bottom.
Yeah, like I said, on page 60, there was a sheet that I submitted to you guys, and it had some comments from our region management that talked about that. I'm trying to find that on my sheet right now so I can help answer that question. I think the fact that it was just like the 5th phase of those projects, there's so many phases that it's just further out, and we'd have to finish the phases from 75 first before we even get to that one. So that one's still probably years away.
Well, that would be my guess. So that's a good answer for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think another obvious answer to that question is there's an honest attempt to, for lack of a better term, spread the wealth around to the various agencies, both Tennessee and Georgia, as well as all of the other projects that are going on. Thus, the ranking being very similar. But excellent questions. Any other questions? All right, so there's a motion and a second for approval of this. We've answered any and all questions. And so let's have a roll call, please.
Andrew Noel,
Yes.
Rodney Simpson,
Yes.
Blythe Bailey,
Yes.
John Bilderback,
Yes.
Jack McAfee,
Yes.
Bob Colby,
Yes.
Jeremy Bryson,
Yes.
Ted Rogers,
Yes.
Chris Dorsey,
Yes.
Darian Collins,
Yes.
Dan Wright,
Yes.
Boyd Veal,
Yes.
Bart Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Whitfield.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion carries, and that will be the last of our roll call actions today.
Excellent. So our next item is official notice of our 2020 annual listing of obligated projects for state and local governments within the TPO area. Of course, that's Tennessee, Georgia, and Chattanooga Area Regional Transportation Authority.
Thank you. Federal legislation requires that MPOs publish an annual listing of these obligated projects each federal fiscal year, this year being 2020, which is October 1st, 2019 through September 30th of 2020. This report includes projects or phases from TDOT, GDOT, and CARTA. The list is generated by these agencies and sent to us. We compile the list and share it with the public. There is a copy of the document available at the RPA offices, and also there is a link in your packet to the website where the report is held. And I'll take any questions.
Hearing none, next item, please. Official notice of biennial amendment to the 2045 Regional Transportation Plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As always, there is the opportunity during our current long-range transportation plan cycle to amend that plan. It does take quite a few resources to do that and time. So we had several years ago decided that the best way to do that efficiently and effectively would be to have a biennial amendment. So 2 years after the plan is adopted, we offer this call for project revisions. You can submit new projects. However, that is a function of whether or not there is funding for new projects, and or shuffling around of projects that exist in the plan right now, that would be a big undertaking. So we caution that. There have been new funding sources similar to TDOT addressing state level funding and offering additional funds for new projects. And we've been able to move projects in from the illustrative list for the instances where new funding sources have been identified. So it is possible to do new projects. When we get the list of submissions, and you can see here on the screen that I've put together a draft schedule of some preliminary activities for this. The official notice is happening today, and then the application process is opening today. So you'll see in the chat box to the panelists, which are our TPO membership, the SurveyMonkey link to the application. So if you wanted to open that here today and save it as a window, like a website spot, then you can do that today so you don't lose it. We will keep that open through January the 29th. And then following that, we will take the submissions and review them to see, just making sure that the project does have everything that it needs to have for us to process the amendment, that it does meet general eligibility criteria. And then once we do that, we will determine how much work we need to do. If there are major project revisions, some of that can sometimes cause us to have to undergo some congestion management evaluation for our plan, as it is a requirement under the federal legislation for us to acknowledge that and determine whether there are changes to congestion associated with project amendments. And then we would have to see the possibility of other activities that we might also have to undertake. That could be travel demand modeling edits. And then we might be able to put a better schedule to that once we see the types of project revisions that we're getting. I would hope that we would be able to submit the technical memo sometime in April, but again, that would be dependent on how much work after we've reviewed the projects and determined what is needed to actually meet the amendment process. I'm happy to entertain any questions. Again, the application process is open now today with this link. It will run through the 29th. And if you have any questions, you can send them directly to me, or you can send them to tpo@chattanooga.gov. And either myself or a team member will get back to you quickly.
Any questions?
Hey, Ted, this is John. I got a follow-up question maybe for the board members.
Yes.
Just curious, is anybody aware of anybody who's intending on submitting projects for amendments for this cycle? I'm just curious if they're aware of it this time.
John, we do have one for GDOT that we already know that we are going to process. They had asked for it back in the August-September timeframe, and we asked if they would hold off and allow us to wait for this biennial amendment so that we could make better use of our resources and time. So we are processing that one. I am not aware of any others at this time.
All right. Next item, please.
Mr. Chairman, this is one that I think the membership received some information from me or some indication that I would be shepherding this process. However, I think we've received new information from TDOT on how it's a very new grant. They haven't offered it before, so I think they're figuring out how best they want to handle this new grant. And so I'm going to turn it over to Andrea Noel so she can give some of the latest updates so that everyone's clear on how TDOT would like to handle this new grant program. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. As you can see on the screen, the details of the grant are up there. And as Melissa said, this is a brand new grant. It's the first time we're offering it to the MPOs this year, but it is similar to one that we've had. We've been doing it for the rural community since 2015, and we've had a lot of interest over the years and much success with the plans. Since this year is the pilot program for the MPOs, we intend to award one project for each MPO. So your applications won't have to compete against everyone across the state. They'll only compete against other applications submitted within the Chattanooga TPO. So I also want to mention that this is a mini application. Originally, we had planned on doing a notice of intent, which it says in the packet, but now we're just calling it a mini application. It's very short. It's only going to be about 3 to 4 pages long, so it won't take long to fill this out and submit it. We are working on the application format now, and we will send it out prior to the opening on January 4th. And the deadline to submit it is January 15th. And we know that's a short window, but it is a really small application. But we also plan to be able to announce the awards early in February. So our contact information is up there, mine and Rachel Bergman's. You can reach out to us with any questions you have about what kind of projects you want to submit and everything like that. But it is a 10% match on your part, and it is up to $200,000. So it's a pretty good grant. So we're excited to offer this. So please feel free to reach out to me or Rachel with any questions on this. Thank you, Melissa.
Mr. Chairman, may I follow with a question of Andrea or Melissa?
Please do.
Thank you. And I'm happy to follow up afterwards. Melissa already provided some information. We're interested in this. And what is and forgive me if you said this, Andrea, will you and your staff, or will TDOT be the determiner? Will they be the ones that do the ranking, or will TPO staff be doing the ranking? And what are the criteria to determine sort of like what are the what kinds of things are preferred in the ranking?
So thank you, Blythe. Yeah, so we've decided that this is going to be a TDOT review, so we are going to keep it in-house. We decided since each one of the TPOs would be getting one of these, we didn't want them to kind of be in the middle of picking and choosing which project was in their area. So we decided to keep that review in-house. So it will be from TDOT staff. And the second part of your question was what kinds of things? Anything planning related. Right now, we're kind of open to seeing what you guys present to us. We wanted to leave it kind of up to you of what kind of projects we can get. This is a pilot year, so we really wanted to see what kind of interest there is out there. So we're kind of just asking that you submit anything. If you have questions in advance, we're happy to, let you know whether it would be eligible or not. But right now, we're pretty open to submitting just about anything, as long as it's planning related.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, next item.
Mr. Chair, the next item are staff reports, and we provide those for informational purposes, but we do not have any verbal presentations at this time. Hopefully each of the staff report items has a contact name, including, we've added one to the TDOT and GDOT project updates. And we just encourage you to contact staff or our GDOT or TDOT partners if you have any questions. I will note that there is our TPO annual survey. We've done this for probably 6 to 7 years. There's a link to that survey, and we do encourage board members to take about 3 or 4 minutes to complete that survey. And there are some questions about how TPO stakeholders and board members and TCC members view the virtual meetings. So, but that's it for that item, Mr. Chair.
Excellent. Any other business?
Melissa, last slide there, just again to reiterate, we did not have anyone sign up or ask to speak during the public comment time. We have canceled the January TCC and February executive board meetings. So first of the year, we plan on sending out an informational video or informational email just to kind of catch us up to date on where we are for the year. So be on the lookout for that. But we will also send an email reminding folks that we are canceling that meeting series. We do appreciate all the communication you have with us about our meetings. Renette McIlvain is on the call, and she's the one that reaches out about quorum. And she just does a fabulous job making sure we get everyone here to conduct the business of the MPO. So I do want to thank her, but you will be getting some meeting cancellation information from her. That's it, Mr. Chair.
So right now we can potentially anticipate our next executive board meeting would be in April.
Yes, sir.
Okay, get a mental calendar there for those of you on the call that want to look at that. I know Melissa likes mental calendars, right, Melissa? Got her to laugh. Got it done. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining the call. Wish everybody a wonderful holiday season and certainly a safe holiday season. Thank you for all that you do for your local communities and for participating on this very important function that we have. If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
John, I just want to again, just kind of make sure we're again, that give our acknowledgements to Melissa for winning the National TPO Planner of the Year. I think that's in our project calendar to make sure that we acknowledge her accomplishment there. Well deserved. Just to make sure we call attention to that and not miss that. Really appreciate her service in our organization.
Yes, thank you, Melissa. It's we've talked numerous times about how we have a wonderful staff that does all the work, and then we come in and do the proverbial rubber stamp, but they work very hard. They're very timely. They're very effective and very efficient. And we're grateful for that.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Karen, anything else for the good of the order?
No, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Is there a motion we adjourn?
So move to adjourn.
There's a motion, so moved. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.